This Monday, we successfully returned our pre-K, some students with disabilities and K-5 students to in-person learning. And it was a joy to visit a few of our schools this week and to see our students learning in the classrooms and collaborating on the screen or on Zoom with other remote students. I was extremely impressed by the commitment shown by our principals, our teachers, and our support staff to welcome back our students and to help them with the return to in-person learning and adjusting to the school day routine after such a long break. And I want to take a moment to commend our student-facing staff for all of their hard work in preparing for this week and the weeks to come, and to also maintain that commitment to safety for all of our schools for our returning students. Now, I am excited as well to say that we are ready. We're ready next week to see our traditional middle school students in grades 6 through 8 and our high school students return to the classrooms in their assigned rotations. This is a big moment for many CMS families as these students anticipate entering our buildings for the first time this school year. We know from the feedback that we've received that it will be a big day. And I want to assure you, we have taken great care to make sure everything is ready for this day, and the safety practices and protocols we've implemented for transportation, arrival and departure times, in our classrooms, at meal times, and for extracurricular activities will be followed without exception. Safety is and will remain our top priority. We are closely monitoring community health metrics, which are improving each week, and we are encouraged by the decrease in community spread. However, as I have said each week, we need your help. Please continue to do your part to reduce the spread of COVID-19 and practice the 3 W's outside of school and every day in the community. We want to keep our schools safe and open for students who choose in-person instruction. I want to just mention, as it relates to rotations and calendars, as we talk about bringing back our traditional middle and high school, let me bring up the current middle and high school calendar. I know this has been a concern of many CMS families, especially those families in Group C. That was impacted the most, Group C. And so we have been working on these rotation schedules to balance out the instructional days across Groups A, B, and C. And it is our plan to present a recommendation at an upcoming meeting of the Board of Education to adopt a revised calendar that balances the in-person instructional days of these rotations, and also includes the additional or the addition of assessment dates for these particular groups. And Dr. Hayes, our Deputy Superintendent in charge of academics, can speak more to these revisions and assessment dates later. But now I want to share some very exciting information about a new summer learning program we are developing to address some of the student learning gaps due to the pandemic. Our instructional team recognized early on that students would need an extended learning opportunity to make up any unfinished instruction and to strengthen core competencies over the summer. So after the first quarter, our team began to ask questions about how that could look, where we should focus, and most importantly, what will work for our student families to make a summer learning experience meaningful and beneficial. And so I'll let our team talk a little bit more about that program later, but it's important to know that our academic leadership team was already working on a solution for months before it became an issue at the state level. And that's because they knew it was the right thing for our students. Now, on the subject of vaccines, last weekend, as you all know, many of our staff, 65 and older, were at the Novant Health vaccination clinic at the Spectrum Center for their appointment to receive round 1 of the vaccine. It was encouraging to see so many people at this well-organized event, and we are grateful for the partnership with Novant Health that allowed our eligible student-facing staff priority access to vaccination appointments. And as I have said repeatedly, we encourage all of our staff who choose to protect themselves with the vaccine to do so. And we continue to offer them the flexibility to attend appointments when needed. As Group 3 opens up in the coming weeks, we hope to continue our partnership with the County Public Health and Novant Health and provide more opportunities for our teachers who want to be vaccinated. We will keep you posted on any event information as we talk with our partners about these possibilities. And as I wrap up, I want to mention that we are actively hiring substitute teachers, and we request that you help us share the news in the community. We want to encourage people in our community to sign up to substitute teach. There is nothing greater than the reward of supporting students and helping them learn. You can find more information on the CMS website under Careers Non-Instructional Support Services. And I just want to thank you all again for joining us today. And unless any of our team members want to add something at this time, we'll go ahead and open the meeting for any questions that you all may have.
Okay, I see a few hands raised here. I see Annie Ma. We'll take the first question from you, from the Observer.
Hi, thanks for taking my question. I believe Ms. Peugeot is probably the best person to answer this, but we've just been hearing at board meetings and in interviews from teachers who feel kind of frustrated with the accommodations. You've been super thorough about the policy, so I just wanted to ask if you have a sense of how many teachers have left the district over the course of the school year, and if it's accurate to say that it just would be hard to accommodate everyone who wanted to work remote because of either themselves being high risk or having a partner or someone in their household.
Sure, absolutely. Thank you for your question. And I'm really hearing that to be almost a very multi-part question, because I heard you ask about teacher separations, but that's not necessarily something that we should assume or speculate has anything to do with our accommodations process. So I first want to share that, and we're happy to get you specific information with respect to separations. Now on the accommodations front, again, yes, we have, thank you for the opportunity for us to be able to share our process with the Observer and other media outlets. We've also reaffirmed that process with our district leaders in that it is an HR process. And it's a very individual case-by-case situation that is based on employees who may be at high risk for serious illness if they were to contract COVID. Now, one accommodation that we can sometimes offer staff is the ability to be able to work from home, and we've successfully done that in many instances with teachers and even other instructional support staff who can effectively do their work from home or from a remote location. But that's not always the case. So in many instances, we do have to have meetings with school level leaders to be able to understand what the specific instances are school by school. So for example, there may be a situation where a teacher with whom we are working to provide accommodations may be the only teacher that provides content area expertise in a particular area that in-person students are receiving. There could be other cases where one school might have a higher instance of vacancies or leaves by other instructional staff than another school. So in that sense, there could be differences school by school in terms of how many accommodations and what type of accommodations we're able to offer. So we appreciate all the hard work that our teachers are doing, and I can assure you that our team in HR is very dedicated to providing individual accommodations where we can, but we are not always able to fulfill everybody's particular request to be able to work from home.
Thank you, Christine. Vanessa from WCNC.
Hi, thank you for taking my question. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I wanted to get whoever is most equipped to respond to it, a take on athletics. I know athletics are an important part of the high school and general school experience, but just looking at some of the CDC guidance, I mean, they were pretty, assurant that in-person learning can be done safely, but I guess there was more of a question mark about clusters arising from sports and athletics. So I guess how many of your clusters, or what portion of your clusters, have come from the athletic experience, and what sort of steps would y'all be taking to ensure safe practices here on that front?
So I can first speak to some of the protocols that are in place, and then look to Monica to speak to any of the anything that we've had, kind of come up in the different sports. But I will state that North Carolina High School Athletic Association has provided some strict guidelines to across North Carolina, not just CMS, but across North Carolina, and that is what we are following. That would include, but not limited to, students maintaining a mask being worn not only during practices, but also during competitions, and that students maintain at all times possible 6-foot social distancing, which is key to it. They're also working with students in smaller pod groups. So therefore, if there is any type of situation where a student may come in contact or have to quarantine, the number is limited by those that are in close contact with them while they're at our schools. So I think that's very key. To that, all of the activities that can take place outside are mandated to be outside, and things such as weightlifting and those type of things that would have high contact use of equipment has been limited or eliminated at this point in time. Monica, would you like to share anything around any of the any situations we may have had and so forth?
Yes, so we have had some clusters that we believe were related to athletics. 2 of our clusters were related, we believe, and what we've instituted is some trainings with athletic directors to make sure that they have the plans in place that CMS is using to ensure safety in practices. They cohort the students when they're doing training, and they make sure to keep really close lists of who was at practices and who played in games. And we try to make sure that we have all the information to validate anytime we have concerns about close contacts, and we quickly quarantine any of our student athletes in those situations. We've had some meetings with athletic directors to make sure that they know how to institute our protocols and notify us if they have any questions or concerns about close contacts or cases related to their sports.
Thank you both. Next question from Elsa Gillis and then Derek Dellinger. Elsa.
Thank you. Hi all, happy Friday. My question is probably for the superintendent, but whoever wants to answer, of course, that works. I was hoping you could speak to 6th and 9th graders and their families specifically from traditional middle and high schools. Obviously, this is a very exciting time to be going back, but it's scary because they have not really been in these buildings before, and there's all sorts of new people there. So can you speak to what supports will be in place for them to help navigate this new stage in their lives?
Absolutely. Good to get that question, Elsa, and thank you for asking it. Appreciate that. I think it's important, certainly our families, we continue to ask our families to have conversations with their students to remind them of what they will encounter when they walk into the building for the first time. You are correct. For many of our students, our 6th and 9th graders in particular, this will be the first time. And really for all of our traditional middle school and high school students, this will be the first time that, they walk, inside the building this school year. But for our 6th and 9th graders inside that particular school building, because it's a different building. And so all of the same supports that they would have in any other year, their teacher support, we have a tremendous student services team that does a great job supporting our students with their social emotional needs. So that will remain in place. We also have supports from outside partners, such as communities and schools who provide a trusting adult for our students who may need a shoulder to lean on or to go and have a conversation with a trusting adult. So there are all types of supports. Our principals and our school-based staff are the first line of support for our students. And so those supports will continue to be there, whether we're in a pandemic or outside of a pandemic. And so I would encourage our students to take advantage of the trusting adults who are surrounding them at school, at home, and other places. So we have lots of supports in place.
Thank you. Derek?
Thank you for taking my question. CDC just recently released some guidance on their reopening, and the information that we got indicated that 99 counties fall into the red zones for school reopening under the CDC guidance, meaning that they shouldn't really be opening right now because, and it's largely because of the community spread and the high amount of cases in specific counties. Mecklenburg is one of those counties, and with all the stuff that's kind of, I guess, going in between with what people will be seeing, the stories that will be out there, and what CMS is doing themselves. How are you meshing with that? And basically, what is your response to that CDC guidance, basically saying that the reopening shouldn't be right now?
I think, Monica, I know you are our point of contact with our local county public health department. Would you like to take that question?
Absolutely, thank you. So we always work closely with our local and state health departments. And part of that CDC guidance is clear that the decision needs to be made through work with those groups. And as we've seen our numbers in our community trend in the right direction, we feel confident that we can safely bring our students back in those rotations. Remember, they're not coming back at full force. We have small groups of middle and high school students coming back at 3 different times. So they're able to socially distance, and we have upped our security around wearing masks and made it clear that that is an expectation for everyone the whole time they're on the school properties. And we have always had screening, temperature checking, and communication with our families, again, to make sure that they're staying home when they're sick, and following those orders that the governor, as well as our local public health, has issued to say, stay home when you don't need to be out, to keep our community safe.
Thank you, Monica. And Mr. Superintendent, I think our Chief Human Resources Officer, Ms. Pajot, may have some additional information related to staff readiness in that regard, and maybe some additional info too.
Absolutely, and thank you, Ms. Adamian, for hitting on the face covering requirements, because I do want to take this opportunity to clear up what might be some lingering confusion regarding face coverings and whether specifically gaiters are allowed. And for those of you who may not know, gaiters are the one piece really that comes on over your face, and then you can pull it up over your nose and mouth. So we have since retracted a statement that we shared at the last board meeting and will continue to allow gaiters. The important thing is, regardless whether you wear a mask or a gaiter, is that it should be dual layered, or at least 2 to 3 ply, and that it's worn properly, covering both the nose and the mouth. And this updated face covering guidance was shared with all of our CMS staff internally. And then also it's important to note that that guidance, along with many other important COVID response protocols, can all be found in a return to workplace guide that's been published on our website and also on the employee intranet page. So we are constantly updating that document to include information about leaves, about workplace accommodations, about the face covering highlights that we just hit, and even what to do if you feel that people may not be complying with those rules, what your course of action is to be able to report that, to make sure that we're all complying and that we're all doing our best to stay safe.
Thank you. Next question, Brett Jensen, and then I think Annie Ma might have had another question as well. Brett?
Thanks. I'm curious, in terms of the substitutes, was one of the reasons that you're asking for the substitutes, Ernest, is because you guys, there is a little bit of a teacher shortage. I've spoken to other school districts, and the substitute issue is a big issue in other school districts and other counties, and either because some substitutes, the ones that they have, are filling in for teachers who won't be in person, who are taking leave or what have you, or just don't want to come in until they get the vaccine. Is that one of the reasons that you guys are asking for the substitutes?
So substitute staffing is always a challenge, right? So even pre-COVID, it's difficult because it's a little bit of a different dynamic, because substitutes can virtually, I shouldn't say virtually because I don't mean virtually, substitutes can pick and choose what assignments they take, what schools they go to. There's not a certain expectation for substitutes to report every day because it's just not the nature of the work. So in that sense, we are always looking to recruit and attract more and more substitutes. Now, in terms of seeing any increased need, we have been looking at those numbers daily, and we are not seeing anything that's out of the ordinary in terms of when we look at our numbers that were pre-COVID, in terms of how many substitutes were requested for positions that would normally require a substitute. So again, going back to pre-COVID, we're right at about the same level when we look at those requests. And even when we went back to when we were in person back in the fall, late fall, before we went out on winter break, we also looked at those numbers as well. So we're very similar. So we're excited in terms of being ready to go for this coming second wave of returning students to in-person, not anticipating any serious issues when it comes to substitutes, but we are always looking to increase that pool. And it's a really good, I really want to thank the superintendent for highlighting that it's such an invaluable way to be able to give back. And we often hear from parents, even at recent board meetings, saying how they want to help, they want to become more involved with their schools or their neighborhood schools. And that's one fabulous way to do that, because again, there is not a set schedule. If people have other conflicts and things that they want to be able to continue, they can still do that in balance by also serving as a substitute. So we want you, we welcome you. Please go on our website to apply, and we can get you working fairly quickly in our schools.
And the only thing that I would add to what Ms. Pajot just said is that this is about preparedness. We want to make sure that we are prepared. We would rather have too many substitutes and not need them than need them and not be able to have access to them. So I want to, as she just mentioned, want to continue to encourage our families, members of our communities, volunteers, our retirees who still have the enthusiasm to work with students. Please do take advantage of this opportunity and sign up to become a substitute teacher.
And one more thing, I don't know that this is generally widespread or known, but we have gone to great lengths, and our principals especially, to be able to accommodate children of staff, of school-based staff, to be able to come on site in a supervised environment to conduct their remote learning when they're in remote learning periods. And so we can also absolutely utilize substitutes to help continue that benefit that we've tried to carve out for our employees who are taking advantage of that program. That's been something that's been received very well by our employees who may have young children who are in school, yet the employees are expected to be in person, obviously, to serve in-person students. So that's another area that we could definitely ramp up our pool of substitutes to be able to provide support in that area and continue to help our school-based staff.
We've got some second round questions, Annie, and then Elsa, and then Brett.
Hi. Well, thank you for getting to me for a second time. Going back to the CDC guidelines, I wanted to ask if you could share the thought process through whether or not CMS will implement surveillance testing or asymptomatic testing where the community's in the positivity range where that's a recommendation from the CDC. And I'd just love to know a bit more in detail what the district's thinking and approaches on that front.
Yeah, thank you. We've been talking about the surveillance testing, and really one of the challenges is the size of our district. And if we were to implement the testing, it would require us to have staff trained, and we would have to access a waiver to a CLIA waiver for testing in a non-clinical setting. And so as time's gone by, one thing that we've noticed in our community is that there is ample testing available. And we worked with the county health department to identify locations around the county that we can access and provide access for our staff and our students to do testing. That would be more for symptomatic testing and not the surveillance testing. But we continue to talk with public health about that opportunities for surveillance testing as well.
And Elsa?
Thank you. I'm sorry if I missed this, but are you able to elaborate any more on the summer learning program that you talked about, or can you share any more details about when there might be more information?
I believe that Mr. Kingsley, Dr. Hayes may have some information about that.
Sure, I'll start off. Yeah, thank you. No, it's great. I'm gonna let Brian speak to it for just a few minutes because his team has been working on this for quite a while now. As Superintendent Winston spoke to that just a few minutes ago, but I do want to make sure it's very clear to everyone that the main thing here for us is that this is an exciting time for students. It's a way for us to engage students and engage them the right way. Want this to be an opportunity for them that they wake up in the morning and can't wait to get to. So that's the exciting part about this. And Brian, if you want to share a couple of things just that's in the works right now, I think it'd be helpful for our community.
Yeah, sure. Really appreciate the question. And Dr. Hayes, thank you for teeing it up. We anticipate that our summer programming at a minimum will be kind of in alignment with the proposed legislation that you saw coming out of the General Assembly earlier this week, at a minimum of 6 weeks. I think it's important to note that based upon our current school calendar for closing out the year this year really strong and starting next year, is that we have 3 months of a summer. And so we have a really good window of time for us to engage thoughtfully with our students and our families, that we're thinking about creating these experiences with joy at the center of them, and also making sure that we're providing all of the wraparound supports, the school counselors, social workers, our psychologists, and really making sure that this is engaging both socially, emotionally, and enriching, but also laser focused on their academic needs. Our superintendent eloquently articulated that this is about addressing unfinished instruction. I would love for our media to move away from the term learning loss. We want to make sure that we are not problematizing any of our students in our community as a result of what they may be dealing with and coping with as a result of our pandemic. And so we're really taking the onus of us as professionals to engage our students. We're going to go really big to ensure that we have a very strong close of this school year, where our families will have the opportunity to know what their students have mastered, and making sure that they are equipped with the insights and the knowledge to make informed decisions on what type of summer programs that they may want to leverage for their children over the course of the summer. We are also thoughtfully engaging various community partners to make sure that we're doing this in partnership with the community, which I think is really, really important. And we want to make sure that we're continuing to leverage our high quality teachers and instructional assistants and do that in a thoughtful way. We do believe in the next few weeks, probably around a month, we will be I'm saying thoughtful a lot because that's just really important, but we need to engage our families and provide them an interest survey to get better understand their commitment of what they would be desiring for their children to participate over the course of the summer, how long, for what part of the day. We're also trying to ensure that we're doing everything possible to provide access to our students to these various programs through the lens of thinking about food and nutrition services, transportation, so on and so forth. So, we're really looking at summer programming as an extension of the school. You may want to consider it the fifth quarter of our school year, which is really a conduit and a bridge to not just filling, areas where we know unfinished instruction lies, but really ensuring that we also are very focused on starting next school year incredibly strong as well. So I'm really proud of the collective efforts that our district is taking. There will be more information forthcoming to our families engaging their interest and commitment to these programs. So please look forward to further updates on this topic through these various press conferences that happen weekly.
And we have time for a couple more questions. I see Brett Jensen and Derek Dellinger. Brett.
Thank you. Last week, you guys, I believe it was last week, you guys announced the program of the grades going from 0 to 50. And obviously, that's going to help a lot of students. For the lowest grade you can get is a 50 instead of a 0. Do you know how many people that will help, that will jump from 0 to 50? And maybe if you guys did data on the first semester, that number of 32.9% that had at least one failing grade, how much lower would that have gone had that been enacted in the first semester, if you have that data?
So Superintendent Fiorke, I'll speak to that for just a minute. Just want to get some clarifying points on that, Brett. So what this actually does is it implements for a student that we're on our 10-point scale to begin with. So basically a 60 is the lowest D that a student can receive. So therefore you then have another 59 points that are basically there between a 0 and as far as standing for an F. So what we've done is we've minimized that down 10 points following a 10-point scale. So now you have between 50 and 59 would be what would be recorded. By having the 50 in there and allowing that not only for all assignments that a student would have in the grade book. We also extended the opportunity for students to have a 5-day grace period in which to turn in their work. And the reason for that is, once again, what we understand is that we are in a pandemic and each of our families are going through various things that we may not know about that are impacting them in their instruction. The one thing the 50 does, which is very clear, it is by no way, in any way, is it grade inflation, which may be a question that's out there. I question to people all the time and say, when we give a student a 0, who is the 0 really for, right? Is the 0 for the adults or is the 0 for the student? Because that's clear. When we give a student a 50, the student is still not passing the course, but what it does signify to the student is that there is still hope that the student can pass the course. There is still hope that the student can re-engage when a family situation may get rightfully corrected. Where their situation to engage back into instruction happens, they're able to do that. They have the hope to gain that grade back to a passing grade, knowing that we're in the conditions we're in. But that is a philosophical piece that we will be not only addressing now, but also addressing as we move forward as we bring students back into in-person, even into next school year, as we go through a conversation about that in our district.
Thank you. And we will take one last question. Derek, I see your hand raised. Derek?
It's kind of a simple question, but might result in a complex answer. We're kind of at a point right now where we've been doing this for about a year. And I'm kind of interested in getting thoughts from anyone who wants to respond to this, just in regards to how difficult this has been, how challenging this has been. But also, I mean, there have been some good moments. There have probably been not so really pleasant moments. So as we are coming towards a year on doing this, your thoughts on it?
Well, Derek, since you mentioned that it's a challenging question, we will double team and we'll respond accordingly. I can tell you that from my perspective, that certainly it has been a challenging situation. But I will tell you that our team here in this district has risen to the challenge. And our team has stepped up to the plate, has gone above and beyond the call of duty, and continues to work in a very selfless manner while putting the needs of others, namely our students, before theirs. And so I've encouraged our staff members. I appreciate that, but certainly take care of yourselves as well, so that you can be all that you truly can be for our students. But it has had its challenges, but it has certainly had its bright moments, its bright spots throughout this year. And we're just excited to have our kids return to our classrooms for in-person learning.
Superintendent Winston, would you mind if I added to that?
Not at all.
So that question is an important one, because to build off of our superintendent's comments, I think in the struggle that this pandemic has created for all of us personally and professionally, there has been incredible acts of heroism at the center of this. And everybody in this organization, in this community, has had to reimagine and redefine how we parent, how we teach, how we coach, how we lead, and how we support our children to continue to feel the love and the joy, as well as the learning experiences that we know that they deserve and need in order to continue to meet their full potential. We have over 8,000 teachers in this district that have continued to identify ways to reimagine how to meet kids' needs in this environment through technology, through visiting families at their homes, by knocking on doors, trying to engage them with whatever services that they need. And the principals being able to identify ways to continue to engage their local school communities in ways to continue to find ways that maximize engagement to just really continue to do that has been nothing short of extraordinary. And so while it has been incredibly challenging, I think the system and this community hasn't slept really well in over a year. But it's been nothing short of heroism at the center of the work that they're doing, because we know that children deserve that. And I just think that there's a lot to be proud of. And I think as we're building summer programming, I think we're going to need to continue. I think there's one problem that we'll have to figure out ways to mitigate, is to really make sure that we're preventing our teachers from burning out, and really identifying ways to be thoughtful around how we're engaging our staff, and doing so thoughtfully, knowing our children need supports, that we're going to need to lean in and engage. But we're also going to need to make sure that we continue to take care of our employees. And I know our superintendent leads us as having that as a clear priority. But there's a lot to be proud of and celebrate in this district as a real result of the extraordinary efforts. And that involves our parents and our community in doing that in partnership with us.
And there may be others who want to weigh in here too, but just the things that the superintendent and Brian have stated, the number of innovations that have happened in a challenging time that our staff have brought to the table are too many we could take the rest of the afternoon and into the night to speak about those. But just some off the top of my head, things like the CMS Eats at Home program. So it's school-based staff, it's nutrition staff. It involved our transportation, getting technology into the hands of our families so that they could stay connected. Another area, we've had teachers earn accolades for innovative use of social media platforms, including TikTok. We've got a science teacher who earned some national recognition for that. Just over the past day or so, have seen some local media coverage of a great story about some band leaders in our arts programs that have joined together for some to connect their students for virtual concerts and things like that. I mean, we could go on, but in pandemic times, some real innovation has happened. And I think that's a testament to the dedication of our staff and trying to do always keep students and families at the top of their minds.
Yeah, I would just add that the call to be resilient and adaptable has really been like no other time. And this is across all of our team members. And really, to echo what my colleagues have already shared, we've risen to that challenge and continue to adapt. And I really think that that's what's key. I mean, even many of the questions here today, we're asking about just new guidance that was shared last week. So we continue to keep up with that pace. And it's really changed the way that we work. But at the same time, as what was just shared, it's also allowed us to be more innovative in how we move forward to help all students succeed. And it certainly, I feel, has prepared us for any challenges that lie ahead.
Well, I think those are great notes to end on for the week. It's been a great week having students return to our buildings. Next week, we look forward to that as well. And I'm sure that many of our middle and high school students in traditional middle schools and in high schools are looking forward to that as well. And just thank you to all our panelists. Thank you for members of the local media and for others who attended the briefing. Hope everyone has a great weekend. Thank you all.